Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network episode 3. This is what will soon be our live at 11 a.m. Pacific chat where we talk about some topics and then we bring in our patrons. If you're on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/audionautic, you can join the conversation live in this chat. And then once we're up and running on live streams, anybody can join in the normal text chat on YouTube, but if you want to join this, you got to be on the Patreon.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't live in the United States, for the rest of the world, 11 a.m. Pacific is 7 p.m. GMT, 8 p.m. CET for anyone in Central Europe.
Yeah, I rely on Josh to do the conversions because we just had time changes and it's quite confusing. Apparently, Howard just had the time change too, but Josh is just out there with it's just crazy. He was like, Howard was like, I'm good to go. It's 11, right? And I was like, well, yeah, but Josh said his time didn't change, so we're doing 12.
So, yeah, mine changes next week. I thought Europe doesn't change till next week. Howard, have you gone back already?
No, we mean forward, you mean? We put the clocks forward in spring, not yet.
It's all fucked up.
What is time? What is time?
We put them back in autumn.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, you've gone forward already?
No, we're still on GMT for now.
Right. Okay, so you go to BST. Do you know when?
It'll be soon, but I don't know yet. No, it'll be a few weeks out, I think.
Well, as we can see, giving top quality content to people who've tuned into this. Yeah,
I'm sure people are very curious about how crazy it is to do these time changes because it's a nightmare. We're dealing with 3 time zones, right? Because Howard's an hour before you.
Yeah.
So and then I'm 8 hours or whatever. I mean, it's a nightmare. But we get it done. I'm going to open this blind.
This is my Google Calendar is our friend.
2 of the 3 of us have head coverings. I didn't get the head covering memo.
You got to... Yeah, it's cold in here, man. And I didn't feel like wearing a jacket, so I went with the beanie.
It could always work. How have you been, Howard? What's going on in your world?
What's going on? New symbol on the drum kit. Yeah.
Nice.
Got an extra symbol now. Got 2 crashes and a ride.
That's cool.
You know, possibilities are endless.
Is this the V drum or are these real symbols?
Yeah. It had an extra stand that came with it. I've had it for years, and I just decided to finally put something on the top of that stand.
There you go.
Well, why not?
It's there.
Second-hand one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a proper drummer, obviously.
You say that.
A drummer couldn't have had a bare stand that amount of time. Put something on it, even if it was a saucepan.
How often do you get to play it these days?
Quite regularly, really, because I mean I'm here during the day, and it doesn't make much noise.
Well, there you go. Perfect.
I mean, it makes noise. People down two floors below know that I'm playing, mainly because of the bass drum, I think. But yeah, I mean the vibration goes through the floor and everything, but not like an acoustic kit.
I got you.
You hear that down the street, you know, no matter what you do.
No.
So that's cool. That's cool. My modular corner now is all hooked up to its own little mixer.
Is that an old MPC back there? Or no, that's your MPC Live,
right? Yeah.
That's the white threw me off. I was like, that almost looks like one of those old.
But in answer to your question, that's the old MPC. Yeah.
That's the one it is.
Yeah, the SP404 is in front of me. The MPC's over there.
All right, boys.
Exactly,
man. I mean, you know.
Dude, this thing is awesome.
You sleeping with it? Yeah.
No, the fiance was like, get that thing out of here. It's like, come on. Just listen to the cool
really
vinyl noise.
That'll put you to sleep.
Dude, it's awesome.
It's really portable.
Yeah. I'm going to, next week or this weekend, I'm going to throw some guitar in there, sample it and speed it up. And I tested out the speeding up stuff with that piano in that last video.
Yeah.
I really like all the BPM changes and stuff like that.
I've already got some guitar in mine.
There you go.
So thanks for that.
You took Star Guide, right? Yeah, I was like, what are you thieving from me? But all right, that I gave to you. We'll let that. We'll count that.
It's all legit. It's all legit.
It's on the up and up.
I'll be sure to clear anything else.
You better. No, go crazy, man. Yeah. So do we want to start getting into the topics? We've got some interesting stuff.
We have got some very interesting stuff this week, and we'll take a look with 2 main topics of discussion, and I'm sure eventually when Hydro Fighter joins us, he'll be.
I think he's waiting in the lobby.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look. Let's set the stage. See how we go, and then shall we? So our first one is actually from Bendu, who's also on our Patreon.
Fellow Patreon.
Hey Ben.
Hi Ben. Hi. You all right? Hopefully you can join us.
Probably at work right now, but
probably we'll see. But yeah, so we're talking about so Sunwarper, do you want to kind of
so I only got to really take a quick look. I put the link there for you. Can you share your screen, Josh, and show it?
Yes,
There was a bunch of stuff recently with Spotify and streaming, and then Bandcamp getting bought by Epic, which we talked about in episode 1 of ADSN, and Bendu mentioned this Resonate, and so I quickly looked. It's like a community-owned music streaming like answer. You pay. It's not in the way where you pay a monthly fee. You buy credits, and then the credits are broken into small amounts of, like, you get from like X amount of credits you can listen to songs this amount of times each month, and then there was something about, like, after you listen to a song 9 times, it's permanently added, and I guess you don't have to pay to listen to that song anymore or something. And they pay a much larger amount to the artist compared to Spotify. They said something like, 1,000 streams is equal to a much larger amount of money than 1,000 streams on Spotify, which I think is like
easy to do,
a couple bucks or something. But yeah, so
try
Josh,
again.
If you just scroll down, we can check it out. Because like I said, I only got to look really quickly, but there's a part where
they've owned this. They've introduced this stream to own concept, which
that's the one about the 9 streams that I was talking about. Yeah.
Which is an interesting idea. I mean, these people have been thinking, that's for sure.
Yeah, Josh, there was a section I got to where it like breaks down the money part, like how you pay and stuff. Maybe it was.
Which, and this is one of my concerns about looking at it, because I mean, they're being clever here. I kind of want this to succeed. I kind of want it to do well, or at least there to be another option out there.
Yeah,
and
the token
I wonder.
Thing seems a little weird to me, though.
Bearing in mind, some of the people you're aiming at are just punters and regular people. How easy is this for them to understand? I think it's one of the barriers to entry.
Well, I think in the sense that, what do you mean? In the sense that we have to understand that the mainstream streaming services essentially don't benefit the musician. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, I just mean from a general punter point of view, what they want is you to literally just play the music into their ears.
Yeah.
They may, if there's some payment things, got to be quick and easy, and the music has to go in the ears almost immediately.
It's a bit complex in the way that it's being broken down with, like, oh, here you pay X. I think it's like $10 gets you 20 tokens or something. There's a section, I just don't know where it was, but on the website it breaks down, like, you buy this much, you get this many tokens, and you can listen to, I think it's like 10 tokens means you can listen to 4 hours a day or something for a month. Something like that. And I mean, it's like, you pay $10 on Spotify as a consumer, and you can listen to unlimited music as much as you want. Now, yeah, there's the ethical issues of, like, how they're screwing over the artists and stuff, but I think you also have to think, like Howard's saying, the consumer is going to go to the easiest part that allows them the most bang for their buck. It's going to
have to be quick and easy. And
the biggest bang for their buck, too, is the other thing. If I pay $10 and I can listen to unlimited stuff versus $10, and I don't want to misrepresent the amount. I think it was something like 4 hours a day for a month. If I'm wrong, you can correct me or we'll find out. But it's something to that effect, where it's like there's a limiting factor to it. So that's the thing. And then you also just have to figure, like, how many artists that a lot of people are going to go to a platform for are on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a very good point in the sense that, okay, I haven't seen my distributors do anything towards Resonate.
I think you have to sign up separately. I think you're on the page about joining as an artist, because it's like a cooperative.
Well, okay. So I suppose the crux of it will become when more artists can kind of come through to it. I mean, you're not going to see major artists move away from things like Spotify and Apple Music and come to something like this, because it doesn't benefit them in any sense.
This is also, it's being run as a cooperative, which is interesting. So everybody has an interest in it, and while the board member part of it is tied in until they reach 30,000 members, after that, anybody can be on the board of this. So the idea is, I think that it's something that everybody can generate revenue from and be part of. Yeah, exactly. Which I've got nothing against any of these approaches. I think they're good. The only thing I think that does go against them is perhaps complexity.
Yeah.
And the fact that people just want a quick and easy service. That doesn't mean that there isn't a niche or a market for this. That is
true. Look at Bandcamp too. I mean,
exactly. And let's face it, we need to start being creative about how this works. I mean, I make these points a lot about how, originally it was home taping is killing music, right? And it really was. I used to tape everything when I was a kid. It's just what people did. And then Napster came along and killed home taping, providing a much better way of doing it. And you could pirate music in absolutely astronomical amounts. And then, Spotify and the other streaming services did fix that. They did that by completely devaluing the music.
Yeah.
It's not worth anything anymore. So, again, it's achieved the same thing. There's still no money in it.
Do you wonder if perhaps, okay, so
they stop people from stealing music by pretty much almost giving it away.
They almost give it away, yeah. But,
so you don't have to steal it now.
If you think about this, like this cooperative in its own sense, okay, so we as consumers, we're drawn to this because we have a vested interest in the fact because we are musicians, right?
Yeah, we're not normal, are we?
We're freaks and we live in the shadows. But in that sense, in that case, wouldn't it be like an insular secular economy almost? Musicians listening to musicians, and I don't want to speak to before it's too long, but you have consumers of Spotify who do not make music of their own, and they've cornered that market very effectively. And perhaps they're not aware so much of the consequences of propping up something like Spotify. It is easy and it is great, but obviously we're not getting a fair deal from it. Now these guys come along. Is their market not people like us, people who want to see forward from that?
I think that's kind of what we're all saying to a degree, is that it does seem to cater to musicians, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but is that a limiting factor, especially with the seeming complexity of how they're explaining how it works? I think it's a really cool idea, and if they can get people who are non-musicians, even if you get a lot of musicians in there, if it's a large amount, everybody's winning to a degree. But it's like, how do you hit that broader audience? And if they're just starting, which I'm assuming this is a fairly new endeavor, I could be wrong, but if it's a fairly new endeavor, as it goes on, I'm sure they'll find new ways to bring in new markets and things like that. I think it's something to keep an eye on. I think it's really interesting. It's a great concept, but it seems like we all feel like there's some limiting factors that are a bit concerning.
I suppose the first challenge that they've got is to get content on the platform.
Exactly.
They need that first, and I don't have anything to criticize about how they're going about that.
No, I think it's cool.
It's certainly got, it's got potential, that's for sure, and the fact that it's ethical from the point of view that people involved in it can all participate and benefit from it in the the traditional concept of a cooperative.
Yeah. And I think there needs to be healthy competition that's new types of ideas, because that's the only way things will change. Like, if this really starts to grow, maybe these bigger companies, either if they're losing subscribers because of it or something, they'll try to start incorporating aspects of it or some, just like maybe then everybody can win from it. But even if not, like if this just does well, you get people away from those that are not doing good things for artists and you bring them to a new platform. So I think it's a great idea for sure.
And things will change. That's the only definite thing. And I don't know, it's kind of important to maybe try and shape that change, take the opportunity while you can.
Be the light that you want to see in the world. I mean, let's have a look. And I mean, okay, in the name of bringing in new things, let's see what Hydrofighter has to say. He's been sitting in the lobby for a while. So I'm going to let him in.
You did have a nice drink in there for him, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it would be nice. I mean, I think that's with the Zoom Pro. I don't have Zoom Pro.
They just send a drink through your computer. Here you go. Your lobby beer, sir.
I've just got the basic Zoom.
What's up, Steve?
All right.
Hey, guys.
How we doing?
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Got you.
Loud and clear, man.
How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, it's like 50 degrees here today. That's hot for us this time.
Hang on, you're talking Fahrenheit again. I have to think about this.
First, we go from weird times to now different weather. It's all crazy here.
Do we even live on the same planet?
We're worldwide here.
We like to make our math complex.
Yeah. And then put it on everyone else while you
To be fair, I used to think about Fahrenheit when I was a kid, and at some point I switched to centigrade, and now I can't remember anything about it really.
Well, let's just say we're well above freezing.
Yeah.
So it's melting here today.
That's good. That's what you want. The summer is coming. It definitely feels like that, and with it, a nicer time for everyone. So Steve, now you're here. Want your thoughts? We're talking about what Bendit was talking about in the Twitter Patreon group a couple of weeks ago about the Resonate streaming services, where it's more of a cooperative approach to streaming. You have a credit system where X amount of credits gets you X amount of time to listen, and then the money generated from that is spread out to a more. The
tagline covering it quite well about the community-owned music network kind of sums it up quite well. It's a cooperative sort of approach. It's interesting. They're getting creative, aren't they?
I think it's got to be better than some of the other platforms out there, right? If you're giving the musicians more rights.
Yeah. Ideal wise, definitely.
I don't
we
really.
were just talking about the logistics being possibly a nightmare. Like how do you get listeners with this complex system? And like Josh was saying, that it seems like it caters to musicians joining, not the average listener. Like you're not like Josh could probably put it better. But Josh, what were you saying about like people who go to Spotify just to listen to Spotify?
Well, there's just more consumers, aren't there? Like there are people who use Spotify who don't necessarily make their own music, and they just want to consume. $10 a month, and you've got everything under the planet. It's great. I mean, us as musicians, especially indie musicians, we get a hard time, and we spend a lot of our time on air going, "Hey, this sucks," but I mean, it is the way it is. But so it's less internal, it's less secular. There's money going out, which is not necessarily being put back in. Whereas I fear with this particular model, it's somewhat a little bit like Bandcamp, or what has at the moment anyway, where musicians are listening to musicians and then buying musicians' work, which are then bought back next time that other musician releases something. And it's great. It's a great concept. Ultimately, this is the idea that's meant to be taken, or it's meant to stand up to the likes of Apple Music and Spotify. And it's just whether or not that model is really marketable to those who don't make music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the idea also about the fact that it's a co-op, does that benefit the casual listener as much as the musician and the content creator? Possibly not. I mean, do they have a vested interest in propping up a platform, or do they just want to consume? I know what I think. What do you think, Steve?
I think, for the music that we do, most of it is musicians listening to what we do. So I think it could be beneficial for us. I mean, honestly, I write my music for you, Howard. I mean, if you like it,
just above him, and he's like, that guy likes it. He's cool.
If you like it, I'm cool with that. I don't expect to get a ton of downloads or a ton of plays, and we it's kind of like jazz now. I mean, jazz has become a musician's music, in a way where you just don't have a lot of younger generation people listening to that type of stuff. So, I don't really have an opinion too much until, if it takes off, then it probably will have more of an opinion, will want to join something like that. Until then, I'll probably just let it set. But I kind of let
and is that a challenge though of any new sort of startup platform?
Yeah,
that everybody will sort of do the wait and see.
Yeah,
and that's one thing they've got to get over.
To bring in listeners, that's the issue. You need to bring the consumer in to do that, and I just feel like that. I don't know if we mentioned the whole token thing about listening, Steve.
Yeah.
But we talked about it before you hopped in, but it's like it was something like you pay $10 for a month and you get what is the equivalent of something like 4 hours of listening per day. But after that, you'd have to pay for more tokens or something. So there's this very complex system that they're initiating, and that to me, when I read like all these complexities and stuff, like just trying to explain it. Of course, I only read it once, so it's a naive explanation of it. But you would think you want an elevator pitch kind of concept, right? And that to draw in listeners, and so that is it's a really cool idea. It definitely is beneficial to musicians. It just seems like it needs a little. More.
Yeah, that concept doesn't sell me.
Interesting.
I'm not going to pay.
Sorry, carry on, Steve.
I'm not going to pay $10 to or whatever it is to do that, and I don't really do that with Spotify now. I mean, there's so many radio shows that we listen to that. I mean, just writing music, listening to that stuff, and then trying to get out and listen to everybody in the community stuff. It's a lot. I mean, to jump on another streaming service doesn't make sense to me.
What if it was more about getting your music out there? So putting Hydra Fighter and KST stuff into new hands, into new ears.
Isn't that everybody's gimmick though, in a way? I mean, I've had somebody contact me on Twitter trying to get me to pay them $30 a month for more streams on their system. I'm like, no way, dude. I mean, I'm not looking for stardom here, right?
Yeah.
Can I please sample that and just send that to anyone who sends me the same message?
Absolutely, man. Throw it in one of your songs if you want. We won't worry about any copyright on that either.
Well, that was our topic of last week's discussion with copyright. Josh is all about no copyright, so
take my stuff. Take my stuff. Yeah. I echo Steve in a way. Like, I mean, if tomorrow, if DistroKid put up, I go through DistroKid. If they put up a little thing that says check this box and suddenly you can go to Resonate, I'd do it.
But wouldn't you not be able to, because it's not, you have to pay the extra money to be in the co-op? Right?
I mean, it probably won't happen for that reason. You're right.
Yeah, I know that was a theoretical, but I'm just saying, based on their grounds of existing, that doesn't work, right? Unless you pay DistroKid $5 a month or something.
I'm one of the people that it's supposed to benefit, right? So I'm a producer, a creator, whatever, however you want to term it. But if there are two things that turn me off, right? It's the words tokens or crypto.
Right. Okay.
Or what about NFT?
Really?
How does that sound to you?
All right, three things will turn me off, and it's kind of out of laziness, but I think in that respect I'm a little bit more like a regular punter. It's just that I can't be bothered with all of that. I'm in this to make music. There's a limit to the amount of hoop jumping that a busy guy can do in order to get the stuff to happen, and when it's not something that you see as necessary, then there are a load of things that I've learned to do this because it's part of doing this. It's a multifaceted thing. It's not just about writing music and then expecting everyone to love you. So you got to do something with it.
That's right. That's not, you guys love me because I make the music. That's how it works, right?
That's because of your unique charm.
Wow.
No.
I thought it was the accent.
And that's part of his unique charm.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's again, return investment. Are you going to invest your time in something that might not necessarily bring your time back out? And you're not wrong at all. And I think it's going to see how it goes. I'd love to be one of those people, like kind of like what they call it, groundbreaking. Like, you put the spin.
Yeah.
Well, I know people that do that, right? I mean, we all do. I know people that have been involved in the various crypto things for a long time now, and there've been radio stations that run that way where you can earn crypto by listening and so on. And I applaud what they're trying to do. Good on them. I'm glad they exist. It's a way of thinking, at the very least, that needs to be promoted. But I think just by their very nature, they end up niche, and there's regular people are just going to get, Ryan, I just take my credit card, play me some music. It gets more complicated than that. I'm off.
Yeah, there's a fine line, right? Because
that's a real problem, really.
Dude,
for us.
Like, you look at those cryptos and stuff, and the people that do really well on it, they're hitting things before they get big. But a lot of times they're taking huge losses because you don't know what's going to do well, what's going to not. So you just have some intuition.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a bad idea to fail.
No, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there is some risk involved with getting in on things on the ground floor or whatever you want to call it. But if you can handle that risk, it could be worth it. Like, if you could join Resonate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could turn out to be really worth it if you have that risk, like willingness to deal with the risk or anything. And I think it's a really cool concept. I think it just what I'm looking forward to is seeing what keeps evolving from this, like through them, but also other companies that rise out of this idea, like, oh, well, I like that, maybe we can do it a little bit differently. And like, but it seems like this could be a way forward where there's a bit more balance between what's the consumer's paying, what the company's getting, and what the artist is getting. We'll see. I mean, we'll just see what happens. But I mean, that was one of two that Ben drew our attention to. Did you look at the other one, Nina? I didn't have a chance to check it out. Hopefully we can.
So the other one, Nina, I think did a similar thing, and it was all about being ethical and making sure that the content owner and the person who created it actually got some money out of it.
Yeah.
And it was saying all of these things. I'm thinking, this is great. I think they were doing stream to own as well. I thought, okay, that's kind of nice and simple as well. It's like, you listen to it enough, it's yours,
Yeah.
And then it mentioned the word crypto.
Oh.
I went, I
mean, I think we're going to see that a lot as things
it's one
progress. Of those. We're going to see a lot of things with crypto and things like that. There's just like Josh and I were talking about the metaverse and all this stuff, and like things just keep popping up in there, and it seems like that's where everybody wants to push things, and that's what I mean.
And
by
what if it takes off, then
yeah,
and if that's what it takes, then eventually I will step over that and start. Okay, there's something else I've got to absorb, but at the moment,
it doesn't feel like it.
Just like
it's needed, right?
There's a bit of a gatekeeperism in that as well, in the sense that because these things like NFTs and because these crypto kind of based new age kind of music interests are quite complicated, and they there suddenly becomes this gatekeeperism. I think the whole system itself needs to be a bit more decentralized, a bit more easy to do, and a bit more understandable for anyone and everyone. And
either that or you've got to wait for the general level of people's understanding to come up to meet it.
I
think it's probably a bit of both,
to make
really.
It simple enough to understand,
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, in the name of moving from the virtual world and the digital world to something more analog,
nice little
let's look at him go.
Nice little segue. Analog tubes. Wow. I see where you're going with this. This is a bummer, man. This is a big bummer.
So new source. You found this one, Michael. So, tell us all about this one. Tell us.
So I saw somebody tweeting about this a while ago. Apparently, there's only a few factories in the world that make tubes for amplifiers, preamps, pedals that use tubes, anything like that. And I guess there was one in China that closed and was supposed to reopen, but still hasn't yet. There's one somewhere else, and then there's one in Russia. And I know Electro Harmonics, I saw it on this article, but the head of Electro Harmonics, I think either bought the one in Russia or like bought a stake in it. And then a bunch of companies make tubes in this place. And because of everything going on with the war in Ukraine, Russia banned exports of tubes. And so there's like this huge...
Which clearly has to happen. I mean, Russia's out of the equation for now.
Yeah. I mean,
stops. So what's the alternative? The Chinese factory that didn't reopen.
Yeah, I think there's
or
one
the
more.
other one.
I think there was one more, and it might say it in this article. But even then, I mean, with just one, there's going to be a huge demand and like very little.
I suppose
supply.
there's always the chance that there are a few people that react to things like this in a way that, like, okay, let's set something up.
Yeah, hopefully they will.
but-
I guess it's just the costs of labor and all that stuff that can
exactly.
stop them,
That
which
is
is
slightly
a bummer.
pretty wishful thinking, really.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see though is, I mean, if anything starts being made currently, the price is going to go up astronomically because demand and all that. But all these used things are probably going to go up too, and then a lot of repairs are going to become very popular and things like that. So if you have any tube things you're looking to sell, hold on to them for a little bit, I'd bet, because in a couple of months it's probably going to be worth a lot.
Yeah.
But
and if you're an electrical engineer,
get on making software
Jesus
sound.
Christ.
But that's the thing. I mean, it's a bummer because I still personally, as a guitarist, like, I have 2 amps back there. No amp sim sounds as good, especially with distortion. I do not think distortion is there yet. I use amp sims in my music because I can't mic that and keep my ears. But I use mostly clean guitars, and when I do distortion, I like hide it, But it's just a bummer. Like, it seems like we're being forced into using solid states and simulations before they're quite ready.
Does this affect plasma-based distortion?
I don't know. That's a bit.
And is that something that's that people have been doing? They do it in Eurorack a bit. I know Erica Synths like to do. They've got a few plasma distortion modules, and the way that they behave is kind of similar to tubes, but different, and it's not
That's
as
a good question.
harsh as
I don't know. If it's not,
I know that there's one
move
manufacturer that's their thing. It's like plasma. So if that were affected, that would be really bad news for them.
Yeah, but I'm curious because we have 2 guitarists here, Josh and myself, and Steve. I see you've got a bass. Do you play much, like bass, guitar, things like that?
I don't that much. I do more on the Thieves stuff than I do my solo stuff.
Yeah.
So typically I'll
Josh
record some
plays
stuff
guitar.
in there, but but even when I was gigging, I was usually using solid state amps for that stuff. But I totally get your point, man. If I was playing guitar, I mean, I wouldn't be using solid state. I'd be using tubes.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, it is what it is now. We have to adapt, but it's just interesting to see we're just forced into this,
Yeah, I think the people who are gigging a lot are going to be the people who are affected because they're the ones pushing their amplifiers more, and those are the people who are going to burn out their tubes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been using a cab sim since I got to the Czech Republic, actually. Back in Vietnam, I had a tube amp, which you can't cut a tube amp 6,000 kilometers across the world. I'm not Bowie, but so I've been using the Strymon Iridium for the past year, and I'm the same as you, Michael. I use mainly clean. I sometimes a touch of overdrive, but it's very kind of just clean. And I have my problems with the bigger names, like I don't like the Kemper, for example, the big $2,000. That's
not Axe Effects, right?
I don't know.
Or is it? I know there's Axe Effects. I think that one's different.
But I now I've gone to the idea of a cab sim, and it's there. I don't think I'd ever go back. As in, I've made that jump. It's not. I know it's okay. So it goes against everything that we as musicians stand for. It's not natural. It's not.
Oh, it's all preference, man.
Yeah.
But I would just ask: have you played an amp since you've been using the cab sim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't at work.
A tube one.
Yeah.
Not a digital. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because like I'll play my amp sims and record and stuff. Then I play into that. I'm like, it's the same for me. Like with hardware versus software synths. Mm-hmm. Like even if the sound is the same, it's like you get that.
So for me, there were 2 things that did it with guitars. So, you can plug a guitar straight into a DI box and record it, right?
Yeah.
You play it through an amp. There are a number of different benefits you get from it. One is the sound of the head itself and the amplification stage. Pre and post, depending on how they're driven and so on, and the nature of the amp. But when you've got a tube amp, you get good saturation and coloration and so on from the actual head itself. And then the second benefit is also the fact that the cabinet itself and speakers and pushing air and picking that up as dynamic air movement. Yeah. So, I mean, I've taken like DIs out of the back of heads that, you know, so you get the amp stage benefit, but without the speaker benefit as well, it still wasn't, you know, it's not the only thing that makes it sound good. I think it's a bit of both, really, that you need.
Yeah. I have found reamping digital stuff, like just putting a mic to my speakers and playing it through. That was nice. And the thing I used to do, but of course this is not going to work now, but I had a tube preamp, and I used to put just DI into the tube preamp into amp sim. So you got a little bit of that tube saturation, but that defeats the purpose of this scenario. But so
I always used to reamp bass because you couldn't have a bass when you're recording a band live.
Yeah.
If you take the bass amp out of the equation and DI it, and then once the band has stopped playing, reamp the bass. That way you cut down on all the spill and everything, but you still got the bass going through an amp.
Yeah.
And it really benefited from it. I mean, the amount of DI you ended up using in a mix was next to nothing sometimes.
I was going to say, I wonder if you'd get more low end from the DI, and then when you use the amp, you get more of that like plucking sounds and things like that.
I tended to get lots of the woody sort of mid-range and all of that stuff, and a lot of noise and string noise and so on, and just, you know, body and boom and so on from the amp. They're quite hard to mix together though, because they don't seem to want to sort of become one. I always felt they felt quite different.
I think
you sound like two things, and sometimes you hear more of one and sometimes you hear more of another, and you could go crazy trying to compress them so that you can sit them and make them blend, and it just didn't. I always found it never really wanted to happen, and I'd just ditch one.
I remember some producer, I think it's Sylvia Massey, but she was producing like Rage Against the Machine or something, and she showed the way she did the bass. She would do two signals, like a direct and into the amp, and get both at the same time, which I guess she was able to like mold it a little that way. But you would, I guess, if you're recording with a full band, you get that bleed you're talking about. But
yeah, well, if I was in the little studio, we'd reamp the bass, in the big one would record it at the same time.
There you go.
Because it had its own room.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like some of that bleed in there though sometimes too.
Yeah,
I mean,
gives it that live feel, right?
Well, even with reamping, you still had it because you had the pickups picking up, you know, the rest of the band and recording with the DI, so that when you put it back through the bass amp, you're reamping the spill as well as the bass. So you still got it as if it was happening at the time. It was quite weird. It's almost like just temporary storage of the bass.
Josh, what were you going to say?
I think it'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall in your engineering days, Howard, just kind of see how you do these things and kind of work it out. Because they're just...
Well, there's a lot of fighting off dinosaurs and things like that. We used to waste a lot of time.
That prehistoric age that Howard lived in.
Yeah. It was hell getting to the studio through the mangrove swamp.
I'd like to see, like, there's a lot of stuff that we do, like that, for example, at work, there's a lot of things that we do that just you wouldn't do in a traditional studio, just because it's just we don't need it, you know. But we're revisiting some ideas about how to kind of like create our music, and we're going down a bit more of a traditional route, and so we're starting to bring more amps in, you know, mic some stuff up and bring more analog equipment into the process. And you suddenly, you know, these things that, you know, have been second nature to you in this studio, for example, that you've not had to worry about over there. Suddenly you're like, oh shit, yeah, okay. So you've got to deal with bleed, for example. You've got to deal with this. You've got to make sure that everything's mic'd. You know, it does matter where you put the microphone, for example. These little kind of things that make it through. Just in the name of coming back to this story with the tubes coming out of Russia, like I wonder how this is going to shape the overall tone of musicians in a way.
Yeah, because I mean, it's about when it's happened. Like back in the day, when I was a kid, like TVs had tubes in them. A lot of other devices had tubes in them. It was a common technology, whereas now it's become more of a niche. So it could have been.
That's probably why there's only 3 factories.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, my amp blew up, so I made another head out of my old telly. Might be something. Well, back in the day, it might be something you could cannibalize stuff and make, but you're not going to be able to do that now, are you? So it's kind of a shame that it's happened now.
But on the other hand, I watch a lot of those like when bands are on tour, Guitar Player, one of those magazines goes out and interviews them when they're on tour to just do a rig rundown.
Talking about the guitar techs about the rig and everything.
Well, it's not always the guitar tech. Sometimes it's the actual artist. But yeah, if it's a huge band, it's the guitar techs. But it's still cool. But anyways, they do a rig rundown and talk about it, and you'd be surprised how many of them have switched to like Axe FX, Kemper, because they have so much more control. And then also, you get the foot pedal, like foot switch, and you can have. Well, first of all, if you're recording with that in the studio, you can just have each song's setup that you did in the studio. Yeah. So, like, I could have, like, Star Guide guitar, and then, this guitar, that guitar, and every song you're changing, you have the exact carbon copy way you recorded it in that, and, like, it's more accurate, But it's also just they don't have to lug amps, they don't have to lug cabinets if they don't want to, like, they don't have to bring all this stuff. So there is a convenience and tonal, like replication aspect to it. But yeah, it's just an interesting topic. And like Josh was saying, the reason I brought the topic in because I was curious what everyone thinks, like how it's going to affect all kinds of like guitar-based music and even like preamps for microphones and stuff. Like,
well, think about mastering.
Yeah, exactly.
Joints that are using tube compressors.
Yep.
I mean, that's the the big guys are doing that stuff, and that's going to be a huge sting.
Yeah, a higher value put on people who still use their hardware to mix and master. Like, again, we do everything. I do all my mastering in the box, and then I'll go over to at the studio over the way. Again, all in the box. We have a load of mastering hardware, which isn't used, and you just think, be fun to just explore that kind of thing, like as we go further and further into these little boxes of computers that do our things for us, ever more presence and ever more kind of value put on, in the name of dinosaurs, these little relics of just hardware, which kind of just exists, which is a real shame. If, in all honesty, because again, we're monkeys, we like to turn knobs and make things light up and stuff like that,
Yeah. Well, Steve, I think we've run the gamut of the tubes, but do you have anything you want to bring to the table?
Outside of tubes?
Yeah, outside of tubes, anything you want.
Okay. So this is the new toy. I know you got your new toy.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
But
I actually got hardware. I was not expecting.
All my hardware works with the software, the plugins.
Yeah.
So this is designed to work with the Juno plugin.
Ah.
That's
so.
I was gonna say it looks like an old Juno or something.
It does.
It's basically what it is. So I've got the suite, the Arturia suite with all the synths and stuff like that. But I used to be more Prophet. Now I'm going more Juno. So I don't think I'll hear it so much on the next release, but probably after that stuff. I mean, most of what I want to do is what you're doing, Sunwarper, but with the DAW. I mean, controlling everything hands-free of the computer, doing it in real time, but not. I'm not going DAW-less yet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not for my recordings. It's just for fun.
What's it doing? What does it do? I mean, I'm clueless. I've never seen this particular box.
So this is basically like looking at your synthesizers. You've got your ADSN on there. You've got your VCOs, your VCAs, your LFOs, your DCOs, and they're controlling all of those parameters on this hardware. But it's basically using the software plugin to do that.
Right. So you're that's that fusion of the hardware and the software kind of thing. So instead of using a mouse to turn a knob or move the line in the ADSN,
So it's like the ultimate control surface, a like bespoke control surface. It is the physical aspect of your software.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sit there with a customizable control surface and set every single MIDI CC for every single control. You've got the whole lot there that will just work.
Yeah, and ideally, what I intend on doing is using the BeatStep Pro to trigger the notes.
Yeah,
and then have that piece of hardware control the parameters of the synth.
Yeah. So you got your transport and your sound.
Now, how many synths work with that right out the bat? Do you know?
I don't know. I think you still have to map it.
Oh, okay. Even like a Juno 60 or 106 or whatever. Like.
Yeah, I mean, so I would imagine down the road I'll probably be trying to use it with the Jupiter and with the OB.
Oh yeah.
But
so that design is just cosmetic, then, right? Like
it's really cosmetic, but I mean, it's the idea of being able to say, this is my attack on my hardware, right? This is my decay. This is my LFO.
Yeah. I just meant the fact that it looks like a Juno or, one of the, that's just cosmetic. It's not like tailored for a specific soft synth, right?
It's tailored more for the Juno, but I mean,
but you can map it to anything, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, most of these synths, they have those same parameters on there, right? I mean, it's just like kind of like you guys talk with Howard about building your what do you guys always talk about? Like what mouse is doing, what you're doing, your modular stuff. I mean, you need all of those components to make it work. I mean, this is just kind of mapping it to what it is. So you can make it.
Does it have any factory maps that you can get with it that are already set up, or is it just completely customizable? Because you're right. I mean, everything's going to have those elements in it anyway. So
I think it is with the software that the manufacturer designs.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, I'm really just doing the regular mapping in Ableton, and then I'll just save it and then carry it over to whatever.
No, but you're doing exactly what I set out to do when I first went over to Ableton and Push and so on, is like getting some hands-on. It really makes a difference just to be able to have hands-on. It doesn't have to be a hardware instrument, it can just be a controller. I found the benefit was the same, really.
That's exactly why I got into Ableton, is because I wanted to use the hardware with it. I mean, it's still this ongoing, how would I do this in a live environment type of thing? What makes it real?
Yeah, like me, as the Hydro Fighter side of things, you have to get around the fact that there's only one of you. And in the studio, you can record the things that you do and then go, right, then we'll have another take and I'll do something else. And what you're listening to is an army of you doing a million things at once, which is really cool.
I think my goal long term with it over the next couple of years is just to do all of the releases, all of the EPs, albums, all in real time and not stack stuff on top of it. Yeah. I mean, you have to go in and tweak a couple little volume things and whatever.
I found that the issue is always like there's only so much you can do at once.
Yeah,
and, the tools
there's only so many fingers and hands, right?
Well, I'm interested though, because you mentioned doing all those things, and I know you were going to do a live show, but that's not happening. Are you still working on that at all? Like just
yes, I am. It's not something I can talk about, but
there we go. Okay,
something along those lines will happen pretty soon.
Okay, on top of that.
Yeah, I will be doing something, and it will be kind of live, and it's almost finished.
Nice. Cool. Okay. So you are still working in some aspect of like trying to incorporate a live performance setup.
Yeah, I've got. I mean, I can't talk about what I'm doing with it, but I've got a set. I've got a set. It's a shorter version of what I was going to do live. It's there's a lot of stuff that's already running, although it's significantly revoiced. Because it was originally planned for me being on stage and not taking my entire studio with me, because I am the roadie, I'm the road crew, I'm everything. So yeah, it was all going to be VSTs and so on. But I've left some holes in it so that I can use my hardware and fill those gaps and so on. So it's kind of like it's a happy medium and a starting point for what I would do with a live set. I've got things that I can do. Yes.
Oh, how can you say how you're using it?
At the moment, I'm just like additional drum sounds and so on, almost
Really?
like using it like an octopad, you know. So
Have you synced it?
sounds like it just whack. It is USB into the main machine,
or
but
through Ableton or something.
so,
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. My
I'm not
is,
sequencing it yet. I'm just using it as a thing that makes sounds at the moment. But
so when
really,
you hit it though, does it play in? Like if you hit it before 1, will it start at 1, or does it start when?
No. At the moment, it's just like if you hit it, it makes a sound.
That's okay. That's what I
make sure you hit it in time.
That's why I asked, because I was trying to think of a way to incorporate the circuit with the SP.
Yeah,
like, I'm still getting the hang of
yet.
the SP, and I was like, I don't have that little proper MIDI to the small MIDI that the SP takes, so I can't even sync it like with that.
You can do it over USB though, can't you?
I have to see if the circuit has like an out USB.
Right.
But
you need a MIDI port.
I have one, but it's plugged into my computer. But yeah, I guess I'd have to figure that all out.
Just buy more gear.
So you can sequence them, can't you? There are a number of things.
I just bought this damn thing.
But you can also use them as a sound card and run things through them as well.
Well, that's my plan just for start, is I'm going to just throw the circuit in here for like effects, and I'm thinking of trying to put a guitar in as well, and then play guitar and just have this for like effects, and maybe trigger some like FX, you know, like a little white.
Because mine saved me. My mixer blew up again. And it was just,
what are you running through that thing, man?
It's the MIDI interface that went. It was the USB 24-track USB interface that blew. So it was still functioning as an analog mixer.
Okay.
But I had no way of getting sound in and out of my computer. So I stuck the SP404 in between them and used the 2 ins and 2 outs, so that everything that went between, you know, my hardware and my monitoring and my computer was all going through the 404.
Yeah. Yeah, they call it an audio interface, right?
It flutters. That's weird.
Yeah.
Josh, can you bring your mic up a little? I'm having some trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Okay.
There we go.
I mean, I never say anything of any value. So
that's not true. That's why I want to hear what you're saying. It's valuable to me.
Yeah, it's all good. No, I'm just saying. I think if I've been running it through like an effects track. I don't have an SP404, and I can't afford one anytime soon. It's coming up to April, isn't it? And but I've seen you guys run it through, just basically use it as a glorified kind of effects box, essentially. It seems quite a fun way to go with these.
It's a really cool, just messing with it just quickly. Like, I can't wait to just put the circuit through it, because just using it for all the effects, it's got so many. Like, I mean, just that alone is worth it, in my opinion. But
and they can be separate as well. They break down into categories. You've got effects that you can put. So you've got samples in it that you're either playing or sequencing or whatever. It's making sounds. You can put effects on those, but you've got an external input as well.
Yeah.
And you can have different effects on that.
Yeah,
so
and then there's the master
you can plug a synth
too
into it with different effects on that, coming in with all the other stuff that you're already playing with that effects on it. And then there are 2 more effects buses on top of that.
And the master effects too.
Which goes on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. Like, I'm blown away by how versatile but also complex this thing is.
And the effects themselves are like, you know, they're coarse, you know, they really do something.
Yeah,
you know how
very
sometimes
apparent.
effects can be a little bit namby-pamby, don't really do anything, but they've got that good blend of being quite vicious in cases.
Oh, yeah.
But also usable. You know, they do sound good. They are
that
usable.
404 noise switch, like, you go from 0 and there's nothing, you go to 1 and it's like, whoa, okay. And then you could go all the way to like 100 or 127. Like,
yeah, I can't imagine ever getting near to 100 on that.
No,
no,
not at all.
Well, if Roland, if you guys want to sponsor this show, we're more than happy.
We're here for you.
Yeah, you're too late. We've already shelled out.
No, they can send us another one. You could do 2.
I would like a 404. I'm pretty sure Steve would like to play with a 404, and there are other things that Roland do.
And I'll take a second one. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's fine.
If they're in a giving mood.
Let's. You know, we've nearly got 200 subscribers, so you know that's got to be worth something. We're coming up to the hour, gentlemen. It's always been fun, absolutely fun. It's becoming the highlight of my week. It must be said. Wednesdays are something
Definitely.
something to look forward to. We hope you guys at home have enjoyed our bollocks talking. It's always fun. And we're back next week. If you're a patron and you want to get involved, well, firstly, consider subscribing to us on Patreon. It helps and we love it, and it allows us to do more. But also, you can submit things for us to sit and chat about, which is really nice, because then we'd like to find out what you guys are interested in as well.
Yeah, we could talk to you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Even just in the comments, what do you guys think about these alternatives to streamers like Resonate, and what was the other one, Howard, that Bendu mentioned?
Nina,
yeah.
German one.
What do you guys think about this? We have our opinions, but we want to hear where you're coming from with it. And then
we'll put links in the descriptions and so on.
We'll have links in the descriptions. And then if you use guitars, I'm curious, what do you feel about these tube issues? Because it seems like we all kind of have differing opinions on it. And so I'm just curious. And if you want to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/audionautic.